Hello and welcome to yet another special edition of the Castle of Horror podcast. Fantastic Fest is going on right now in Austin, Texas, and Tony Salvaggio is covering the festival for us. Tony, how many movies have you watched so far?
It's in the 20s. I have to. I was telling somebody yesterday. I think once you're in it to watch a whole festival, and I don't go to as many of the parties and stuff like that. I'm there to watch movies and to recharge creatively, and also catch up with friends. That's been another thing. That's a side thing, but it's 20 something by now. I'm sure there's
Oh,
5 slots per day, except for the first day, which was two.
five
Is
slots a
it?
day, so you're watching five
Yeah,
movies a day, and I assume you're kind of taking some notes. But
yeah.
like I've been to things where I'm watching five movies in a row, and they begin to run together. You literally can't remember like, oh, which one was that?
Well,
Yeah.
I've been lucky this year that hasn't really happened, but I was telling somebody yesterday that it's time is kind of nebulous now. It's like there's fest and there's not fest.
What's
And
not
that's
fest?
the
Is that just going home and going to bed?
yeah, going to bed or in between screens, like
Mm,
in between screenings. And those are great times because I've been catching up with friends, other filmmakers. Like the filmmakers are here. And what's nice about Fantastic Fest, I think I've said before, is there's less kind of red carpet kind of stuff.
mm,
So everybody knows that they're there to see film, to enjoy film, to discuss it,
mm.
and it's got a different vibe. And so you can just talk and go, "Hey, was this an influence? Oh, thanks for bringing your movie. Oh, well, yeah, this thing happened, and how's your fit? What have you seen, or what are you excited to see if anybody sticks around?"
Mm.
And that feeling of kind of camaraderie, and you'll just see random people show up. Like Ryan Johnson was just. Hey, look, it's Ryan Johnson. He's here to hang out with other filmmaker friends. And okay, hey, what's up? Okay, thanks. I am going to my film. Like
Yeah.
it's that vibe, and that's always super nice.
So when we last met, we talked about four movies you'd seen right at the beginning,
Right.
so now we're checking in several days later, and there's a whole chunk that you wanted to touch
Whoa.
on,
Yeah.
A- and and mind you, Fantastic Fest is very genre related. We do the podcast, which is typically horror, some dark SF thrillers, and luckily this festival is oriented towards that. So
Right.
it's sort of a perfect match. All right, so let's just get started. I have a list here of stuff that you've seen. Do you want to just bounce around, or do you want me to
I
just throw
think
stuff
I'll
at you?
probably. I'm trying to, again. Time is nebulous, so I'll go over what I think. I have the most most to say about, and we're also plan on doing a couple more, and
Yes.
then maybe recap. And then I always look forward to covering the movies eventually as well. Like actually covering the
Oh
ones we
yeah.
can get to. So that's really cool. Yeah, starting off, I think one that really struck me was a movie called The Antares Project. And if you're a fan of Contact, if you're a fan of astronomy, if you're wondering what's out there, it was done during COVID, and there's a lot of stories of, hey, this was done during COVID, so we did this, this, and this.
Mhm.
Single set, it's got a couple rooms, but in general, it's a single set, and it's a woman in this. There's you can see that there's a SETI station. In there's it's not a real SETI station, but in this one, the SETI station, there's a woman there who hears a call, a beacon,
Mhm.
and it's kind of everything that she needs to do to make sure that that's real, so that it can be verified during a storm, during a hurricane. So there's a time element, and it takes place basically in real time. And a lot, during the Q&A, there was a lot made about how hard it was to kind of make sure all the clocks lined up and everything like
Mm.
that.
A
But
lot
the
of people
direct
people have reckoned that that's very similar to Vast of Night, right? I mean,
Yeah.
which just came
Hmm.
out a couple of years ago, and had a sort of a real time plot about exposure to aliens, which we really loved, by the way.
Right.
So that's cool.
It
That's
it
cool.
does have it did give me those vibes. I was gonna kind of mention that. It's good that you mentioned it because it did give me those vibes. There's a family element, beautifully, carrying a whole movie on your shoulders as an actor.
Mm.
That's just
Is
there's a
it just
lot
one
to do.
actor? Is
It
is the
is
whole
one
thing?
the actress carries the whole movie.
It's a one man show, one woman show.
Yeah, one woman
That,
show.
that's fantastic.
I mean,
Okay,
it is really good. I really, fans of that will really enjoy it. Let's see.
let's talk about this.
There
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. I was going
the
down your
Yeah,
list.
no, I was moving on. Also, we talk about genre, but there's also a lot of documentaries, and I like the ones I like a lot of them, but also there happened to be one that was, there's a couple, but Living with Chucky, and it's started, I think it was crowdfunded originally, and it's a great, a lot of the cast members get interviewed. It's a really interesting mix of covering what Chucky means to both the filmmaker and as well as the cast, as well as just what it means in kind of the broader sense, because it becomes a family movie, a movie about family, about there's recurring cast members, so they've seen each other in multiple movies,
Mm.
and just everybody in it is just really passionate about it. Brad Dourif has tales and passing the torch to his daughter. John Waters gives some amazing commentary. It's really it's a love letter, but then also what it's like kind of growing up with Chucky
Mm.
as a thing that's throughout careers as well as the lives of people in the documentary. And we've covered Chucky movies, and it made me want to cover more of them just
One.
because of the
We've done a
passion on
single
screen.
one. We did the original
I
Child's
thought we
Play.
did two, but then I guess I was wrong. But it did make me go, "Wow, we should finish that up."
I wouldn't be against it. I would
Yeah,
not be against it.
I,
That's not a bad idea.
and
But
I know, and
it's
there's,
funny that this documentary, that's what it takes, that you can start just self-funding a documentary and slowly grow it.
it's, I mean, it's
That's
not easy,
yeah.
to do, but it started as a short, and then that, just picked up and picked up, and I really like, fans of Chucky will really enjoy this, or if you're kind of didn't really get into them as much and want to see, like, hey, tell me more. That's even on top of this, the family through line and the what it means to everyone involved through line, and it's really well put together. Tons of heart.
Mm,
It's about representation as well.
mm.
That's really great. LGBTQ plus
Yep.
representation, like across the board. I mean, that there's so much in the documentary that it immediately, and that's the other thing, when you talk to the filmmakers, and people were sharing their stories, their own stories and how it related to them. Especially a good friend of mine, she transitioned during the over the past few years, and she came dressed as bride of Chucky, which is great. But that again, that's the magic of the fest, right? Like, you can sharing these stories and broadening that. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I can't wait for it to come out.
That's really cool. I
Another
wonder, by the way, I know we need to move on to the next, but I wonder
Sure.
what it is about a story a self-ambulating doll that has a touchstone with LGBTQ. Like,
Well,
is
if
it
you
a,
watch, it's got the first trans doll in it, for one thing.
very good. Okay,
Well, as far
fascinating.
as people know, right?
Yeah.
um,
Okay.
so there's a lot, but there's a lot more than that, and there's a lot more that's touched on in the
I love it. That's cool.
movie.
All right, go ahead. Next, what
Um,
you got?
another one I really enjoyed was a dark sci-fi post-apocalyptic movie called Vesper, from it's Belgium, France, Lithuania,
Hmm.
and this is one, we talk a lot about putting everything on the screen, and how you'll see some movies and they don't look quite as good, and then you'll see movies from elsewhere where everyone involved, the craft is just all there,
Hmm.
and it is a beautiful movie. Beautiful. I say beautiful, but it's really grimy.
Hmm.
Everything's lived in, because basically you have a citadel. The rich get to live in the citadel, and everybody else just gets to hang out. And touching on a theme we kind of touched on a little bit in our book SciComm. Basically, if you want seeds, you have to get them unlocked by the citadel. So if you want to grow things, and they only grow one season. So the rich people control and trade for, I don't want to give too much away, but there's a trade that happens. And if you want to eat, if you
Yeah.
want to grow things, you need to deal with the citadel. But because of that, everything's kind of swampy, everything's grimy, except the little bits that aren't. and that's what people have kept, what's important to different characters, right? And that's true to form. If you've ever been anywhere where there's poverty, there
Doesn't
are the
that
things that
sound?
you keep.
I mean, it sounds like a metal hurlant.
It looks like a Meller long,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
I mean, and it makes sense, right? If you're Belgium, France, Lithuania, you would be in BD land, right?
yeah, yeah.
So
You're
so
absolutely
it
right.
totally makes sense. But Vesper, there's a little shades of one of my favorite movies, Nausicaä of the Valley of the Wind.
Hmm.
Pretty much the first Ghibli movie as that goes.
Yeah.
And it is, I mean, there's just so much, all the special effects, everything just blends so beautifully and are, like I said, grimy in the way that they need to be grimy
Yeah.
and clean in the way that they need to be clean.
It sounds
Really
fantastic.
fantastic for performances. It's a bleak, it's a bleak movie. So there were times I was kind of going, wow, this is such a well-made world.
Yeah.
But boy, I hope we don't ever get there.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's that was rough. A really really fun one. And this was also a bunch of filmmakers who've been at the fest a long time got together and made a movie called Satanic Hispanics, which
Okay.
is an anthology movie of Latinx people, filmmakers from all over the world, Argentina, Mexico, I think Spain, if I remember correctly. But yeah, it's it's got a great framing sequence with this traveler who's he's been around, he's seen things, and just really really heartfelt, fun. I mean, also really, like, if you're not into crass humor,
Uh-huh.
it's not your bag. There's a couple that are especially crass and especially gory,
Wow.
but in a like mostly comedic way. So if that's not your bag, maybe this isn't your thing. But
So
I
this
don't
this
know
movie,
many people who don't get that.
anthology, multiple
Yeah,
directors. It's in
right.
English, Spanish, and Nahuatl,
Yeah,
and it's a co-production of the U.S., Mexico, and Argentina. This is amazing. I mean,
it
I
is
yeah.
so fun, and I cannot wait for more people
This
to
one
see
we
it.
definitely have to cover on the show
Oh,
when
absolutely. And
yeah
I think
when it
it's
gets
time to
released. Yeah.
bring David into it again
Oh yeah.
too.
No. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
There were lots of tells on the Noel area of going to deep within where a lot of supernatural things happen, and there were a lot of Q&A tales of things that aren't right. People hearing other cast, like crew members screaming and then going, "What
Huh.
happened to you?" And he's, "I'm on the set here. I don't know. I'm not screaming at all." That
Huh.
kind of like stuff, things missing, like lots of that kind of stuff. But it's really hilarious. There's one about kind of a realistic vampire.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of he gets kind of stuck. He's afraid he's going to get stuck out, before sunlight, and he's dressed as a traditional vampire, which isn't cool at all.
That's
Where
awesome.
he's at, just like, but it's on Halloween, so he kind of
Yeah.
gets away with it's all overall just, and so many good people. Damien Rudna made one of my favorite horror movies of the recent few years with Terrified from Argentina, which is just so scary. And yeah, it's great people making great things and all coming together, really putting themselves out there. And I hope that there's more. I hope that there's more of them. I hope they bring more people in.
Yeah.
There was it's a perfect midnight movie as well.
So, okay. So, I don't know if you want to pick the next one to talk about, but or I can throw one at you because I've got the order that I saw that you've been seeing stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
I have a
go
couple.
go crazy. Go for it.
So briefly, I had a lot of fun with Year of the Shark, which is basically Jaws, but slightly more realistic, but also in a darkly comedic Jaws. Like, it's definitely leans into
Oh
dark
my gosh,
comedy.
a little French beach town.
Right. And
Wow.
it has the same trappings of, oh, close the beach. But what
Yeah.
happens if you do? And what happens if everybody, does? Like, the mayor's like, oh, that we can't have people getting killed.
Beach town politics. So this
And
is
I would say,
A fastidious French Jaws. That's
yes, exactly, exactly. And you can tell everybody knows and loves Jaws who's
yeah.
making this movie. But wow, it's the satire, and then what happens, how quickly people can turn on you, especially now with the internet. Like, the difference is now there's the internet. So if you
Yeah.
do something wrong, people can just cyberstalk you. Like,
Well, and it
can you
also
imagine Chief
mentioned.
Brody? Like,
Well,
hey,
I saw in the write-up that the whole question is, to an extent, what if Brody had succeeded in closing the beaches, and then yeah, you've got the internet, so which becomes, by the way, a wink wink reference to COVID, because
right,
you have all these people complaining, and it's you're arguing a counterfactual, like, well, we don't know that sharks would have eaten people if you had not closed the beach. We
right,
know, you and I know, because we saw Jaws. But
right.
that's great. That's
And it's
awesome.
it's a tiny fridge town, so it's definitely not in that same way. Like that doesn't happen here. Sharks, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And I would say, the character Maja is even more. She's even more dutiful to her job than
And
Brody
she
is.
Brody. Yeah.
I mean, she is straight like I have to do this. Coming out of she wants to, she's about to retire, and she says I can't retire until this shark thing is taken care of. But then it was really good dark comedy. It gets into thriller. It has to with a shark, right? Like it has to get into thriller horror. But wow. I'm gonna yeah. Again, I'm skipping around.
Yeah.
But I also caught a wounded fawn yesterday,
A wounded
and
fawn. All right.
that we talked a lot about how people grabbing that aesthetic, like when it's done right or when it's just, oh, we're going to do some color grading and make it look, this is Travis Stevens film. He's a regular and really cool person. But this film is done on 16 millimeter, so it has all of the look of movies that it's referencing.
Hmm.
And it also, what we get is things happen, and we get basically the breakdown of a serial killer.
Huh.
It's almost from his point of view, but it doesn't necessarily show him as sympathetic. It's not one of those, let's do a treatise on the sympathy for a serial killer. It's not Hannibal, right?
It just gives us
Or
more of his perspective.
and
I'm
and it is, I mean, it's a tough one, but stylistically it's done so well. It's and it has one of the best closing sequences ever.
So it starts
um
primarily in an isolated cabin, right?
right.
So you've got this, and one reason you mentioned it's shot in 16 millimeter. It's one reason I'm looking forward to A Wounded Fawn, is because I love the idea of recreating that look of 16 millimeter film in a cabin, And then I'm seeing some of the stills. He also has these phantasmagoric visions of
Yeah,
demons.
it ties into Greek mythology as well.
Mm,
So there are there's a lot with that.
mm,
As and I'm a big fan. I saw the breakdown. I was like, oh well, tying into mythology, tying
yeah.
into the a lot of the movies we like. And it's kind of been, again, people have gone back and forth on, is it cliche to talk about giallo, because it hit real big, but it does have shades of the giallo movies that we enjoy, that we've talked about.
Hmm.
Bright blood and brutality. But it's really interesting. I don't think this is going to be a movie for everyone, because of the way it's told and the way it's put together. And it's, again, pretty brutal.
Hmm.
I tend to watch a little less. I watch less movies with violence against women, just
Yeah.
because I don't know. It's been more disturbing to me. I mean, it should be disturbing, but in a way that I don't watch as many movies that's kind of the basis of the movie.
Hmm.
And that's on me. I'm not advocating anybody think any differently, or you watch what you want to watch. So it is, like, so it's not going to be for everybody, but it's the costuming as well on the the visions
Hmm.
was also really, really great. And it had a short called "Oh Glory" by
Uh-huh.
Joe Williams and Charlie Edwards Moss, and the actors in it and the look. Like, if you want to see a short that captures, this looks like something that would be a lost English film that would be on the Kayla would write. Kayla
Yeah.
Janice would write about this thing. I mean, they knocked it out of the park as far as the look of it. of a new film with
Set in the
something else.
1970s. Wow, you're right. A psychiatric doctor and assistant called to an isolated country house. That does sound like something from House of Psychotic Women. Um,
It looks, I mean, it captured it in ways that I don't know if you could do a whole thing like that. I think I'm gonna have to, we're reaching the end. I'll go over one more and I think we'll catch up more
yeah,
tomorrow.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
kind of want to hit the highlights. The one of the ones that just punched me was Everyone Will Burn.
Mm.
There's a remote village. Bad stuff happened in the village that they thought was necessary. They had to sacrifice. There were sacrifices made, and those things come to roost. They come back. And wow, it starts with our main character, Maria Jose, and Maria Jose, she finds a child, basically literally brings her from the brink of death. She's about to jump off a bridge, but
Mm.
that child is not a normal child. And
This is a
also
Spanish
just
film.
it, yeah.
From David Herbero, and yeah, that's you know what I. Well, by the way, what one of the since we'll cover more of them after this, but before you head back out, one thing that's amazing to me is just the international nature of Fantastic Fest. Like you've got American films, British, Oh Glory is British, and you've got a lot of Spanish language stuff.
There, especially
Werewolf
this
by
year.
Night is the ultimate in Hollywood, right? And I know you're gonna see that or see some of it. And
Yeah,
what
it
was that?
was yeah, for I just gotta say, if you're a fan of the dark side of Marvel Universe,
Mm.
and things like Man Thing and Jack Russell the werewolf, I think you're gonna like what's going on. October 7th, I think, is the release, right? The date for Werewolf by
I
Night.
actually can't remember. I know we're gonna be doing it for our show. So yes, um,
Oh boy.
yeah,
I if I there's people who are like, "Oh, Marvel, I'm tired of Marvel." I'm like, "I don't, man, I saw things. Yeah, I saw things I've been waiting to see." So,
yeah,
you
that's
choose
cool.
your own adventure on that, but my I'm really ready to talk about that
Awesome.
special. But yeah, getting back to Everyone Will Burn. It is, again, there's generational, trauma. There's all the small town politics, as well as a small town, once you get politics and religion intermingled in a village, because there's no way to separate those, especially because Catholicism in general is its own politics. I mean, there's a political system within Catholicism, well documented. Anybody who's a Catholic understands, if you're lapsed or not. There's a whole how everything works, and there's also the small town aspect of that,
Hmm.
and how that plays in. To me, there's shades of The Mist, as far as the scenes where they're all bargaining and accusing and everything like that. There's a fair amount of the revenge of how people deal with things, and just amazing. It's so darkly beautiful in so many ways. Standout performances from the cast, and it is creepy. And it's weird too, because it does something that isn't often. It plays a lot well with, is revenge something that's worth embracing some darkness for?
Mm.
Or how much darkness can you embrace to get what would seem like justice? And it's heady, like what would you do if somebody came to you and said, well, you got to get your hands dirty, but there will be justice? And is that justice, does that justify things?
Mm.
And there's a lot at play with that in this movie, along with some just stunning effects and stunning, just beautiful. Oh, the score is really great. There's kind of the themes that are brought out really stand out. But yeah, I really I kind of want to cover it, but I kind of think, like, Julia also would be like, I think it's a mixed bag.
Yeah,
Because also it involves children and the
sure.
danger to children, and the fact that children do things that can be seen as bad or evil.
Yeah,
And what happens? Do you protect that? Do you how do you admonish it? What does that do to, if you're in a small village and somebody's done something really bad? Are they punished forever or not? Although that stuff plays into it, but depending on how Catholic you are, and and how much where your needle is on child endangerment and all of that, you're gonna get a different feel. Costuming as well, man. It's something else. That one's one that really stuck with me, and that's why I
Mm,
wanted to kind of go over that. There's so many more, and I'm
yeah.
gonna keep these written down, and we're gonna go over it, and we'll also do a recap.
Yeah, yes,
But
absolutely.
there's just
Yeah.
so much to talk about from the fest, and I hope to cover these movies. And I think we'll try to get together a list as well of when you can see these if you aren't doing Fantastic Fest at home.
Yeah.
Which again, I only plug because if these are interesting things to you, there's a way to watch them
Yeah.
if you have the means and the money, if you have the money and the time, and it's a pretty good deal in my opinion. But everybody's going through whatever they're going through, so
Hmm.
I don't want to sound too privileged on that, like, oh, just spend the money, watch the movies.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to be that person. But
Yeah.
that is a way you can watch some really great films, and I am blessed. I'm extremely lucky to be covering this. I'm extremely lucky to get to meet up with friends again in this context, and to be able to talk about these films to you. I hope everybody's out there enjoying things, and I really appreciate all of everyone's support. Also, as we say usually, as we're wrapping up, right, if these things are of interest, post on the pages or in Twitter, but whatever, like, ask questions and we'll try to answer them. I am intentionally vague in some places because I think a lot of these films rely on it unfurling
Hmm.
with very little prior knowledge to really hit. I've gone into most films with very little hype, other than word of mouth. Friends of mine, hey, what's this sound like? And also that word of mouth may be, well, it's this kind of movie. It looked like this, and I go, oh, well, maybe I'll watch something else, or maybe I'll watch this. Not because it's bad, but because
Yeah.
you choose your own adventure as far as going through what movies you want to
It's
see.
true that our ears perk up at keywords, right? And if somebody
Yeah,
says one and that doesn't jibe with you right then, you might miss a movie that in fact you would have described completely differently. And that's just the way it
yeah.
is. Unfortunately, that's the risk in the strange little card game of recommending movies to people.
Well, also I made choices based on what I'm covering and what I'm bringing to the podcast and recommending. So, for example, yesterday they had all secret screenings of America Genre Film Archive (AGFA), and you don't know what you're going to get,
Yeah.
right? It's all repertory screenings, but I could have made a day of just seeing repertory screenings, and that would have been amazing. But I
Yeah.
also am, wanted to cover more new stuff because I want to give voices to those filmmakers who are, putting this out and kind of being the new generation of what's coming out in film. So I make different choices that way too. That's the nature of the film festivals, right?
Yeah.
But it
Yeah.
is, I mean, it's an embarrassment of riches this year. It always is, but knock on wood, I have been amazed at something in every slot. Even if it didn't strike me all the way through, like if it didn't hit me hard, like punch me
Yeah.
in the heart or the mind or eyes, I guess. I could go, wow, that's something from another country that feels this way, that had these things that were cool. And
Hmm.
every single slot so far, I hope it doesn't change. I hope I don't jinx myself. Has had something that I can grab hold of and enjoy or think about or just go along for the ride and laugh and feel good. So that's amazing.
Wonderful. All right, Tony. Have a fantastic and adventurous day at Fantastic Fest, and we'll check back in tomorrow morning, so we'll hear about
Yeah.
more.
And
I'm really happy that you're having a good time. I envy you of being out there.
oh, I hope that one day, I hope our fans one day, if you ever are able to make it out to Austin to Fantastic Fest, like, let me know and we'll hang out. We'll talk more movies. I mean, that's all I do all day for from like 10 o'clock till I think I usually leave around 2 a.m., 1 a.m., 1:30 a.m. So
Awesome.
again, time is nebulous right now for me. But I hope that, I hope I'm turning more people on to a lot of just great film from all over. It's just such a nice community to come together. So I'll talk more in depth about the films, and hopefully do some more write-ups. And I also look forward to covering them. I mean, the fact that we had to wait a year to cover Saloon, I
Yeah.
hope we don't have to wait that long for some of these other movies. But I enjoy getting to know, and then you meet directors the director of Terrified and had his own short in Satanic Hispanics. He goes, "Hey, we talked metal last time. What's going on?" I gave him a CD, and I'm like, "Oh, by the way, I have a new CD." It's like, "Oh," so it's just that kind of thing where you pick up as if it's your old family or friends from your town, the town that you left, and you're all at the family reunion or class reunion, except it gets to be yearly. And so I don't mean to ramble too much, but it's just I hope that I can bring that sense to our podcast, the people who listen to who are really perking up and looking for new film. That search, that hunt for new cool stuff is something I love and hope that it expands on. People like what you like, of course, but if you have that desire to dig, this is the kind of time and place. This is the place to do it. So.
All right, go
Awesome.
out there and kill it. Have a fantastic morning.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. I'll catch you later.
All right, bye. Thanks.